Kyle here from allmediareviews.blogspot.com, the All Media Reviews podcast, number 3, or part 2 of maybe 3 parts of the 2016-2017 albums of the year. I probably should just get into it just because these things go on for a long time, although that's kind of the point of a podcast. But so I left off the last week with the number 30, so now we're on number 29. Bubblemath's new album, the first album in 16 years and change, or 16 years. I think was it 60? It was 2002. It was 15 years. Quite a while. Called Edit Peptide. I really like a lot of this album. The production is really good. I talked about it in a video, at least one video, maybe more than one video. It's prog rock, as you'd expect, but their last album in 2002, I believe it was, Such Fine Particles in the Universe, was very quirky prog rock, sort of in the Zappa, but also, Gentle Giant vein in a lot of ways. And this is stylistically isn't that different, although they wrote a lot of songs that were longer. And I brought my computer here this time. Hopefully this is the way I'm going to do this. So I actually can reference some specifics if I have the time to do that, because I don't want to spend forever. And I think I put it in a different folder than I'm looking at. Yeah, there it is. So my favorites being Making Light of Traffic. I really like the sax part specifically in that, and some of the synths. Very dreamy at points. Avoid That Eye Candy, which is probably the shortest song on the album and the most radio friendly. It has Kai Esbenson doing the lead vocals. He sings lead vocals on a couple songs. Routine Maintenance is one of the 3 or 4 epics on this record. The Sensual Con also. Actually, I take that back. I love Making Light of Traffic, but the Sensual Con is also a favorite. So I have 2 or 3 favorite tracks. It's a prog rock album that's very, very dynamic. It gets heavy at times, very technical at times, very quirky, very crazy. The vocals at points almost remind me of Caddisfly, actually. It's weird. But, I didn't get attached to it per se, and otherwise it would have probably ended up higher. But I still enjoyed it and was really happy to see Bubblemath finally make this album and release it. They talked about it year after year, it seemed like, but I hope some of the other bands that have been kind of long delayed follow-ups or debut albums finally can follow suit like them. And I guess they have another record coming in the near future, because I saw them live a couple years ago and they played at least 1 or 2 songs from the follow-up album. Anyway, number 28, Childish Japes, After You're Born EP. This is a new band. Notable enough because it has the drummer J.P. Bouvet from the Super Pilots, who's used to be from Minnesota, but now I think he lives out east. He went to Berklee College of Music. I forget who the collaboration is with, but Courtney Swain of Bettany sings on one song. The best thing I can say about it is it's very fresh sounding. It's progressive. It's quirky. And it's a blend of styles. It's not just prog. It has prog in it, but it's not just jazz. It has kind of some, if I'm not mistaken, some kind of loungy elements. And, I liked it a fair amount, but there were other EPs I liked more. Anyway, Childish Japes, their debut album, After You're Born, number 28. 27, The Family Crest, Prelude to War. Of course, I've become a huge fan of the Family Crest the last few years, since seeing them open for Mother Falcon in 2014, and their album from that year, the last thing they released, Beneath the Brine. This new EP is similar and then slightly different at points, and it's got a number of tracks I enjoy. Let me just use my my guide here. I know the one track that was kind of compared to was it the Bee Gees? Some kind of 70s kind of soul pop. Let's see here. It's under the... I remember basically liking every song, but one of the songs, the vocals were a little close to the mic, and so I was kind of less into it, that one. But pulling up the track list, if my computer doesn't fail me here, and that's, of course... let's see, Battle Cry, Don't Wake Me, Can You Stay, Mere Love was the second single, and Sparks is excellent. I can't remember which one it was. It's not Battle Cry. It might be Can You Stay. But yeah, they used the chamber instruments, a lot of vocal harmonies, along with Liam, the lead singer's, lead vocals. And, and they had a lot of instrumentation, and it's really actually a precursor, prelude to this big concept they're doing. I'm thinking it's going to be called War, or something to do with war, given that it's Prelude to War. This larger thing, we're going to get 1, 2, I don't know how many albums out of this whole process, but it's kind of a taster in a way. 27, Family Crest, Prelude to War. 26, The Contortionist, Clairvoyant. I initially liked this album a fair amount. The last Contortionist album I enjoyed more than I ever expected. That was The Language, I think it was called. But I moved it down because it doesn't, I don't know, they're progressive metal of a kind. They have a little bit of djent, although most of the djent is not there. The vocals are kind of almost ethereal and dreamy, which is odd to hear with, obviously, kind of almost an extreme progressive metal band. But I didn't get sort of the whole flow, and some of the moments kind of seemed to like they were used on more than one song. They mentioned the word clairvoyant a number of times, just like they mentioned ebb and flow in the last record. But good album, but I can't say I even would put it in the same category as the last record from The Contortionist, number 26. 25, Hotel of Laughing Trees, Hotel Junk Box. There's a number of songs on this record that were like demos or rearranged versions from pretty much all their releases, and I enjoy that. I really am a fan of Hotel of Laughing Tree. I probably lean toward their first album, Terror and Everything After, largely over their other releases. But and then they had 3 or 4 new songs, and again, I will have to kind of go back and use my my source here, so I don't sound like I'm just being general, saying common nouns versus proper nouns. But this is like 19 tracks, so it's not short. I mean, it's really, to me, like sort of a hodgepodge of kind of B-sides and let's see here. They had Fevers, Boomerang, Electric City Rivalry. The new tracks are nice. Similar to the last album, Sunset. But, and then like some of the demos, like the Lazarus demo, Aging Archimedes acoustic, Bad Canterbury live. It's a hodgepodge. Weather Mats for Nikolai, which is, I absolutely love that. I think there's an acoustic version on this, so, or just a live version. Given that I love a lot of these songs, I still enjoyed it a lot, but I didn't get attached to it at this point. But I'll certainly go back to it because I'm a big fan of the band. So that's 25. 24, Red Planet with Bill Carothers, which is Red Planet, Dean McGraw's band, and then they had Bill Carothers sit in. They covered, I want to say, some Mingus and or Coltrane. In fact, I have the CD in my car here. I thought I did. I at one point did. I may have moved it somewhere, but I actually just stumbled across the Bubblemath CD too. Well, oh wait, what's this? No, it's a small slipcase CD. This is the second half of it I enjoy more than the first half, I guess. No, Monk. It's Coltrane, Monk. There's a few Monk, so Reflections and Think of One are the Monk covers. And then they cover Coltrane's Big Nick and Living Space. And then they have some original compositions, including one of Dean McGraw's original, at least one, maybe 2. Unseen Rain, which I know from one of his records a few years back. And Freedom for the Broken. And Archie Suite, which is a 9-minute suite. But I kind of, this whole Come Dance With Me was by someone named Sammy Kahn and Jimmy Van Heusen. The Kahn music, I don't know what band that is, Kahn, or I'm not sure. I think from Unseen Rain on, it flows really well. It's jazz, of course, and it's with Bill Carothers. it's Dean's version of Jazz in its Red Planet, which, of course, Jay Epstein's just a monster on the drums, and Chris Bates is terrific on bass. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put it in the kind of the category on their live album that I love so much. But if I'm going to a Dean McGraw or a live jazz release, I certainly wouldn't have a problem with that, especially for the stuff that came out this year. So going on, that was 24. 23 is Ramona Falls Coils. I have enjoyed this record, but I think I don't know if I wrote that. I wrote that on one message board that I think it might grow on me over time. I can't say I've actually been able to get into it as much as the two previous Ramona Falls. Ramona Falls is Brent Knopf formerly of Phenomena, of course, and he's done production work. And he's also got this project with one of the guys from the National called LV. But I think the thing about this record is it's kind of better than the sum of its parts, because there aren't too many standout. There's 3 or 4 songs that I think I think of for it. The first song, Prayers. Oh man, toward the end, Now I Know, and I'm trying to remember, but I remember just sort of People of Gadarenes, Gadarenes. I love. There are a number of tracks that stood out on the first 2 Ramona Falls albums. This album is sort of, it's just it's lacking amazing songs, but they're just a bunch of good songs. But overall, in the grand scheme of things at this point, I don't find myself attached to it as much as the first 2 records. Prophet, the last one from 2012. We waited 5 years. He's been obviously busy with some other stuff, and Into It from 2009. But I think this record may grow on me sometime, just over some time. I just think just because Brett is just a really good songwriter, and there's a lot of things that you don't hear the first few times you listen to his music. You notice them later on. Anyway, another record that's in a similar vein came out at number 22, the band Mew with Visuals. And I can say that, similar to Ramona Falls, most Mew albums have a few standout tracks. And I love Mew, but let's just see here if I can find. Twist Quest was one of my early favorites. Got a jazzy element. It features the guy from Jazz Kamikaze, the sax player. Let's see here. Candy Pieces All Smeared Out is weird. I think that's the one that has that really heavy riff. It's almost My Bloody Valentine influence. Carry Me to Safety, the first song, is very mesmerizing. This record is also sort of better than the sum of its parts, but I have to listen to it many times, and after I saw them live, and before I saw them live earlier this year in May, it was May or June, when it was a few months ago. I can't say I prefer this album to any of their albums, at least other than the first 2 maybe. I think part of it is the absence of Bo Madsen, but I think it's a transitional album perhaps. I'm interested to see what Mew does next. I love Mew. I'm a big enough fan of them to have faith that I will love their future albums as much, if not more, than this album. And it's still number 22. It's still a good album. It's just every other record, plus minus from a couple years ago. And that's the album that this reminds me most of. But that at least has that one epic, Rose, that I love. I haven't found that statement track. Twist Quest is good, but it's not sort of in the top 10 or 15 Mew songs, I don't think, at this point for me. So 22 for Mew with Visuals. 21, Timmy Sean's Weeks, which is a collection of a number of songs he released in 2015 when he was doing a song of the week. I think he released 50 or 52 songs. Every week of the year he released a song, and he just kind of chose a lot of the best ones. And actually the CD I bought on his Bandcamp page, includes some covers on a second disc. But let me just pull it up just so I can get a little bit of a reference point. There it is. Oh, I just have the bonus disc. But the only thing I'd say, the biggest thing about this CD, I'm seeing if it might be in the back pocket in the back here. No, that's my wrong one. Is the fact that it's a long CD. It's a long disc, and that I guess is just one of the issues with it. And so, you're listening, you're on your 13th track, and you're kind of like, Well, it's not flowing perfectly because it's a collection of different songs he's written over the years. A little bit like the Hotel Laughing Tree album. There it is. I found it. Timmy. But there's a couple songs on here that stand out. A lot of moments I hear like Jackson Browne and Billy Joel, of course. And of course, like his influence from Queen and Hall & Oates. There's one song on here that totally channels ELO. And I'm thinking it was One Dimensional. Might have been One Dimensional. But yeah, this is 21 tracks, so that's probably part of the issue. Yeah, I mean, it's. I don't put it, the best thing I think he's ever done is his debut album. I guess this would be his second proper debut album under his name. The songs from Noisewater, but I don't think that was kind of less is more. This is twice as long as that album, I think, in terms of track lists, but it's a lot of power pop, of course, a lot of kind of synths, a lot of production, like heavy layered production, but I can't say. I don't know. I mean, I think it might be another grower at points, but at the same time, the length may ultimately not allow it to grow that much. I just think it'll have a lot of tracks that will grow on me individually. So let's see here. Number 20, Persephone's Aathma. And this is, at one point, was my favorite extreme metal album of the year. I listened to that. I revisited it after loving it the first couple times, and I concluded that it's great, but it's a little bit like some of the Vector records, all the Vector records really, and that it kind of goes on for a while, and the styles kind of repeat themselves again, but there's a lot of great instrumentation, of course. They're virtuosos. They use a lot of symphonic elements, and the production is up a level. But I just think, and then I revisited it again around October sometime, it's a little long still. I think it's like 65 minutes or something like that. It's in the 60s or even over 70 minutes range. And, I guess part of it is just the way it flowed. But still, I can't say it's probably on par, pretty close to par with their last record, Spiritual Migration, I think it was. But I'm not sure Spiritual Migration was quite as long. But anyway, Aathma, certainly an excellent record from Persephone. Next, another progressive metal or extreme metal album, progressive death metal, Moonloop's Devocean, which in some ways is kind of the opposite of Persephone in that it didn't seem too long. That's why I bumped it up, even though I probably didn't even listen to it as many times as Persephone's album Aathma. But I really like it. There's a lot of kind of dynamic points in this album. Moonloop are a band. They're from, I want to say, somewhere in Eastern Europe. I can't remember what country, but they definitely channel Opeth. Of course, Moonloop, I always believe that they got their name from the Porcupine Tree song. But I like this record. I guess the only reason why it's ahead of Persephone and some of the others is it wasn't quite as long. There's not any dull moments. At the same time, there weren't any like kind of addictive moments, and that's why I only probably listened to it 4 or 5 times. But I would be lying though to say that this isn't my favorite Moonloop record, just because I don't think I've ever had one finish this high. So, although that may be a product of the year as well, the depth of the year. Number 18, Umi's World of Color, and this is the third EP or like the second EP. They've released a couple of EPs and a full length, I think, all digitally on Bandcamp. Umi is a Minnesota-based instrumental band, very much in the jazz fusion kind of vein, reminiscent of a few bands. One specifically who I've notably loved, is Pat Metheny, and this is kind of unlike some of these albums that I feel go on so long. I don't know if there's enough on this record. Let me pull up the track list real quickly again. I'm having to do this just because I don't memorize tracks too well with albums, especially new albums, but it's called World of Color. Yeah, okay. Droplet, World of Color, and Ruin, especially. There's just some amazing moments. The amazing, like, bright, dynamic, just it's perfection in a lot of ways. I love this band. I hope they get way more popular. I hope the jazz community finds out about them. They opened for the Reign of Kingdom. That's how I found out about them back in August. And this is a terrific EP. I can't wait to see what they do next. They put out 3 releases in like 3 years, so hopefully there's more coming. Ben Sinister, number 17, another EP, The Other Way. Excellent EP. I've written about it in the blog and posted on social media. I don't know if it's their best EP because I still have a soft spot for the first EP, but oh man, this has 3 or 4 just perfect songs, and I hope it's the sign of things to come. Let's see here. Where is my Ben Sinister? Just to name off. I actually had that CD in the car here at one point, but it's probably, where is it? Be Alright. That's weird. I must have put it somewhere else. Anyway, yeah, The Other Way, or I think it's half. Is it The Other Way? Yeah, The Other Way. I should really have this stuff available, of course, but I don't have it. There's, I guess I'll just have to say, unless it's under my downloads, and I don't see it in there. Oh, there it is. There we go. Be Alright, Get Along, Move a Little Slower. The build on that song is great. Even Run and Rock and Roll, the last 2 songs, just work. The Ben Sinister are, and Dan Moxon specifically even, are just they make some amazing songs. And it's par for their course because maybe I'm a fanboy a little bit drinking their Kool-Aid, but I've been a fan of this band for over 10 years, and this EP ranks up there with a lot of their best work. Anyway, going on to the next release, number 16, Ulver's The Assassination of Julius Caesar. This kind of came out of nowhere because they released a live album that was sort of interpretive in 2016 that I absolutely got bored by. I mean, I liked it for 10 minutes and then it was repetitive and redundant. This, on the other hand, surprised the hell out of me. And why that was is that Ulver is very chameleon-like. They're very Bowie-like. They've done so many different genres, from black metal to industrial music to pop or what kind of pop, I guess you'd say, to even progressive stuff. This is very much channeling on an 80s new wave, and I just got charmed by it. I don't know about specific songs, if I can name, but I remember just thinking I was just surprised on how much I liked it. Now, I can't say I got absolutely blown away by every song, but considering that I haven't really liked an Ulver album in quite a long time, probably from their album from 2001, which I can't even remember the name of, Blood Inside, maybe it is, I think. And it's not that long. This is only 8 songs. 1969, So Falls the World, Nemoralia. It's the right length for the right mood, and the mood really works. But at the same time, I didn't put it in the top 10 just because it is kind of a mood album. So, alright, number 15, Beck's Colors. Much like Ulver, probably more so. I've never really been into Beck. But this album did include, I believe, the services of 2 guys from Jellyfish, formerly of Jellyfish, Jason Faulkner and Roger Joseph Manning, I think. They're at least touring with Beck if they didn't play on this. And this is Beck doing some catchy, almost power pop. So that was part of it. And his vocals didn't sound so whiny either. So that was part of the reason why. But I did listen to it a handful of times, and I would have probably put it higher even. But I realized that sort of it kind of has it runs its course after a while. The 4 or 5 songs that are catchy are really catchy. There's one song on here I don't need, though. It's called, what is it? Not Dream, no, just, I can't, there's one song where he's almost rapping, and I'm Wow, that's the one. The song Wow, you get rid of that. That's the only real bad song, reminding me of the Beck that I've never liked. But the title track, No Distraction, Dreams, The Colors Mix, I'm So Free. It's just very catchy and energetic, and I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. And other than that one song, I didn't hate any song, so that's why it ended up this high, surprisingly. But I like surprises. So number 14, Subterranean Masquerades, Vagabond. And the thing about this album is, while I loved their last album a lot, it got to the point where I pretty much knew my feeling on it, and so I had to be kind of in the mood to listen to Subterranean Masquerade. They're progressive metal with kind of some black metal, or progressive rock with black metal vocals at points. I think the loss, or the change in not having Paul Coor and adding, I want to say the singer from, I forget who it was. Was it the singer from Green Carnation? Anyway, I don't know if the extreme vocals I like as much as Paul Coor on the first and the first Subterranean Masquerade, first two Subterranean Masquerade albums and that EP. But and they do a cool cover of Bowie. Speaking of Bowie, and the let's see here, there it is. And I guess this is sort of a good follow-up, but that's about it. I guess if I picked favorites. Place for Fairy Tales. I mean, it has the very dreamy elements and almost cinematic or very thematic songs and moments. I guess the other thing is it did sound like I felt like I was listening to either Orphan Land or Green Carnation as much as I was listening to Subterranean Masquerade, which I suppose you could say Subterranean Masquerade is sort of become a hybrid of those bands to an extent. They did use strings, though, in the chamber in the Middle East. There's a lot of Middle Eastern on this album. So moving on to, I'll get up to the top 10, then have to do the top 10 another day, or before the top 10. Major Parkinson's Blackbox. This is, the fourth album for Major Parkinson. Again, Norwegian band, I think. I always should remember, I should write down all these origins of bands that aren't from the U.S. or Canada. My favorite track on this record, and I pre-ordered it through the Kickstarter campaign, is Baseball, the Epic. It's very kind of gothic, almost concept. It's a bigger concept album than their previous albums. Their last album I really loved, Twilight Cinema, but I don't know if it was quite as much of a concept album as this is. There's female vocals, which add more to the kind of story element. The catchy song Madeline Crumbles, which was shared and or played live a couple years ago and put on that live release they had. So I was familiar with that. That almost reminds me of Diablo Swing Orchestra in some ways. It's very catchy, very kind of jazzy. But I think the biggest issue I had with this record, I wanted to absolutely just adore this album, was the fact it kind of was too much in the whole concept, and it wasn't that long. I mean, it's not short, but I think this album may only be like 40 minutes. Which, I mean, maybe I'm making a big fuss out of length of albums, but I don't know, it just felt short. Like, it ends and I'm like, I really kind of want some more. I want them to blow me away again. But, and I'd heard some of these songs beforehand, but, Baseball is one of the best Major Parkinson songs, for sure. Let's see here, Night Hitcher. I just think it, at points, is a little bit, like I said, their last record, it was like, I was maybe more romanced by, otherwise this probably would have ended up in the top 10. But that being said, I'm glad we got this record. I got it on vinyl, and it's still a very good album. So number 12, Nordic Giants Amplify Human Vibration, which this doesn't, I wouldn't say stylistically differs that much, but this is technically a soundtrack to a film. And I mentioned this on their Facebook page, I think not that long after hearing this. I really want to see the film now. Of course, it's post-rock of a sort with vocals at points and then samples, which when it's done well and not to excess, I totally love post-rock like that. And I think a little bit like Major Parkinson's, everything on this album I like, except it just, at some point I kind of feel like I want a little more to it. Is it less is more? Maybe, but I think it's also I could go for a second part of this. But I like the samples from speaking from different conferences from these professors about space and time and sort of moods and that kind of thing. I don't know if I had specific favorites. First Light of Dawn maybe, Spirit, Dystopia. The way they use the percussion and the piano and stuff like that with those samples totally works. And I really do want to see the film, Amplify Human Vibration. So number 11, the last one for this podcast, SikTh's album, The Future in Whose Eyes. And this is the first full-length proper SikTh album, because Open Cities, which came out, was on my last year's list, was technically a mini album or an EP. And I love SikTh, And I can't say I didn't love this record, but at the same time, I was kind of never not in the mood to listen to it regularly. But when I revisited it a couple times in the last few months, I was just again reassured why I still love this band. You know, their ability to kind of create these sort of schizophrenic styles that work, and like the gonzo vocals. I think we are missing the vocalist that left a little bit, but the new vocalist does have something to his voice and still works. You know, some of the narrative parts maybe get a little repetitive, but that's not new for them, of course. His name is Mikey, or I can't forget his name. Yeah, they have the one song, of course, Cracks of Light, which features the guy from the band that I almost... Periphery, Spencer Sotelo. Yeah, I guess this is not that different than the other two SikTh full lengths, especially you know, Death of Dead Day and the Horses record, the Trees album rather. But at the same time, it's not that, because it's not that different. They're not, and this is the first full length. I think Opus Cities kind of won me over more so because it just sounded fresh. It sounded them making music with maybe updated production, but. You know, Riddles of Humanity, No Wishbone, that was one of the singles. Vivid, Century of the Narcissist. When It Rains, I think When It Rains is actually really good. If I'm not mistaken, they use clean vocals on that. The closing track. I can't say, you know, this is probably like many albums on this part of the list. I'm going to have to revisit them to really see if they're going to grow a lot of me, like Hotel the Laughing Tree or Ramona Falls, especially. And some of these other records, but you know, I think 11 is a good place. It might even be a little high. I think on another year with a little more depth, I don't know if it would have finished quite that high, but you know, I'm also kind of a slight fanboy for SikTh. I think they're one of the most original extreme progressive metal bands or extreme metal bands in the last 20 years. You know, and I've always them and Maudlin of the Well and Unexpect. I think those three are sort of the standard, and then we need bands that can kind of create, you know, experimental progressive. I almost think that Bent Knee is in that category, except they're not quite metal. They just have metal moments. So, but yeah, this has been a little longer. I don't know if this is the length of the new ones are going to be longer, but like a local podcast that goes 30 or 40 minutes. But thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe, and we'll see you next time.